Steve, first of all, I can't thank you enough for doing this. It's been a while since you and I have talked, and I'm wondering how you feel when people refer to Steve Sax as a legend, a Dodger legend.
Well, Jim, first of all, it's great to be with you. I always like our time together, and always been that way. I don't look at myself that way. I look at, I was just one of the guys on the team, and I guess I've heard that once or twice, but to me, I don't know. It's too humbling of a thing to think about. I think there's a lot of Dodger legends. I don't consider myself that.
Yeah, but you were one of the very important members of the team, because we all remember leading off for the Dodgers, second baseman, Steve Sax.
I told you I got my bat right here. And look and I even got my hat.
See?
So, I'm ready to go, but I don't think I could do it now. So we'll just put it that way.
Yeah, but when you think about it, what do you remember the most about your days in blue?
I think that the time that I spent in LA was such a man. I was there when I was 18 years old, right out of high school, never been away from home, and I was in the minor leagues with the Dodgers. I grew up in the organization. I went through some tough times with a throwing issue, with times where I didn't play as well other years, and then I went through some really high times too. It was such a roller coaster. Being able to be on 2 World Series teams. My career there was bookended in World Series in 81 and 88. And I was really blessed to be on a team with veterans that were, pretty much stabilizing the team when I first came up. It was a great imprint on me. I was able to be around guys like, Steve Garvey and Dusty Baker and all these great players. And they really taught me a lot, and so that really imprinted on me to going forward. And then in 88, at the end, when we won the World Series, that was just it was the most unbelievable thing. And that's really the highlight of my whole career, is you can talk about individual things, but there's nothing like winning a World Series. And I never got to feel that again after 88, but that was just an unbelievable thing, and learned a lot from all these guys, really did.
What do you think is the common thread that you learned from all of these guys that helped you to be so successful?
How to be a professional. Easy, hands down. Play the game the right way. Always have the team first, and just how to carry yourself. Guys like Baker and Garvey, and they taught me things off the field. They taught me, where to go eat, where's the best place to get your clothes made, where's all those things, getting to the ballpark earlier than everybody else, because, just those little things made a big difference in my life. And I still talk to Dusty today. He lives not too far from me right now, so I'm able to see him in the off season, and he's still like a brother to me. He was just such a big influence in my life. And, so I was lucky. Most people don't get the opportunity that I had, where you have these guys that make a difference in your life, not only on the field, but off the field as well. And a lot of guys don't have that luxury like I had.
Why do you think they took such a liking to you?
Well, remember when I came up, that infield was together for maybe the longest running infield, the continuity of personnel throughout those 4 guys for all those 9 years, I think it was. And so kind of being the guy that kind of broke that up was, it wasn't an easy thing. I think there was a little bit of resentment here and there, not from these guys, but from, maybe even from fans, and rightfully so. I mean, Davey Lopes was a fixture here, and that's another guy that was really great to me, by the way. And so I think there was maybe a little bit of that going on, but I think that just trying not to be Davey Lopes, I was just trying to be myself and what I could offer the team, and that's the only way I could have faced that thing.
So you never at any time felt like you were on the outside looking in, like you were an outsider, an intruder, if you will?
No, I didn't feel that way. And a lot of the times I was the butt of the jokes. I was an easy target because I was, just coming up, and I believed everything they told me, and so I was right in there for the jokes, but that was good. It was kind of a welcoming thing, if they're making fun of you and using you for the jokes, making you spend all your money on the road. Maybe they didn't like me that much. I don't know. But no, I took it as if they're including me, that's kind of a nice thing.
What were some of the jokes that they told
Oh,
you and played on you?
oh my gosh. Well, where they could pick up the three people at the same time. Do you remember that one where
Yeah.
you lay down and they got the two big hosses on the side, Joe Ferguson and Rick Monday, and then they proceeded to take all my clothes off and throw all the condiments like mustard and ketchup and sugar and milk, and everything was going on me, and I couldn't move because I had the two big hosses on the side of me holding me down. So things like that. I had to carry people's luggage. I had to get the donuts on Sunday morning. And whatnot. They would, one thing they did too is, how they get your favorite music? They do kind of a bio on you, and they put your favorite music up there on the big screen.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what they put up there, but it was nothing what I would listen to. And so I was walking around, and people say, "Oh man, you like that group?" So he tried to embarrass me as much as they possibly could, and it worked. But it was all in good fun, and I think it fit in pretty good.
Did you ever try to get back at them?
No, I didn't. Hey, no. At 21 years old, and I was 3 years out of high school. I was lucky to be on the team, and I didn't try to get back at anybody because these were grown men now, Jim. Okay, I'm not going to mess with a bunch of grown men. So,
Yeah, and you had a lot of hurdles that you had to overcome. One of which you alluded to a little while ago was a lot of times when you were in the infield and a ball was hit to you, sometimes your teammates would hold their breath thinking, "Oh my goodness, we hope he can throw it to first base."
well, it was the collective holding of breath throughout the fans. I knew that would happen too, and it's such a crazy thing, Jim, how people remember that still. It was 2 months out of my life, and I was fortunate to get over it, very fortunate to get over it. And other people haven't been able to do that. So I got over that darn thing of what it is was just a temporary loss of confidence. People say, well, was it a mental block? No, it wasn't anything like that. It was a loss of confidence. And when you lose your confidence, you really can't do anything like you're capable of doing. And so you have to get that confidence back in practice. And that's where I started building new habits, building confidence in practice. And then I got that back, took it into the game. And actually, when I went to New York, when I signed as a free agent with the Yankees, I led the league in fielding at second base when I went to the American League. So it can turn around, but it wasn't an event. It was a process, and I had to go through that process.
And through that process, Lasorda had all kinds of confidence in you because you know how Tommy is. Once Tommy believes in you, he'll go through walls just to help you get through things.
Jim, I had a conversation maybe 3 or 4 months before Tommy passed away. And he told me, he says he had a lot of people that were asking him to take me out, put me in AAA, put me on the bench. And he said, I couldn't do it. I never would have done it because it would have destroyed any confidence that you had at all. It would have wrecked you. And that's why I stuck with you and I believed in you. And it made a difference in my life that somebody really believed that I could get over this thing. And had he not been there, who knows what would have happened? I might have never came back from this thing. May never have come back from it. But fortunately, I did.
Isn't it amazing how sometimes other people can see things in us that we don't see in ourselves?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, Jim. And I felt deep down that I could beat it. But so what I did, Jim, essentially is I called it out. It was like a demon. And I called it out and I said, this is going to be a fight. We're going to see who wins this fight. And if I have to sleep at the stadium and just live in the stadium and work out 23 hours a day to beat this, I will do it. It became the most important thing in my life. It became more important than anything in my life, more important than my family, more important than anything. At that time, I had to beat this thing. And that's the only way I could have done it, was to face it and challenge it back and bite it right back in the face.
That's a heck of a thing to say. That's the most important thing in your life, even before family.
Yes, at that time, it had to be. I couldn't have anything else that could even enter into my psyche, into my mind for that amount of time. I had to do anything possible because my career was on the line. at that time. And I had to beat this thing. And
Man,
so that's what I did.
you skyrocketed after that. I mean, after that, you became the focal point. I mean, the offense started with Steve Sax. The defense, a lot of times, started with Steve Sax. You became so important to that team that they depended on you now.
Well, that's what I was hoping it would happen, Jim. You know, nobody does anything by themselves in sports unless you're a tennis player or you're a swimmer or a boxer. You know, it can be obviously a one-man sport, a one-person sport. But baseball, football, or basketball, these sports, you get to share that. There is, I can't even explain to the people that may be watching the elation and the absolute joy that you get with sharing, going through the season with people, going through the ups and downs with them. You know their families, you know how they're struggling, and when they come out of it, it's just rockets you up. And to go through all that, the ups and downs, and then win a World Series, being dubbed the best in the world that your team is with, there's nothing that compares to that. I can't explain how wonderful it feels to be able to share that with your teammates.
That must have really helped to develop you into the man that you have become.
Yeah, you sound like a professor, and you're right, because your assumption that it brings forth in people a lot more than just what they do professionally. It brings more in them personally, and you grow as a person this way. You understand, you see things differently, and you kind of see it from a different angle. When you go through all these things and you're fortunate to be successful in it, it will never leave you. And when I saw the guys at the reunion this last weekend, it just made me realize how much I didn't really miss the game, but boy, I miss my teammates. I love my teammates, and they'll always be my brothers. I saw guys, I didn't even recognize them at the time. I didn't recognize Candy Maldonado when I first saw him, and then when I knew it was him, I just couldn't believe he was here, you know, and Pena and just all these guys that I don't see very much. And a chance to see these guys was just, you're always going to be brothers with these people. And it's just a great thing.
That's an interesting comment you just made, Steve. You don't miss the game, but you miss your teammates.
Yeah, maybe there's a time or two, Jim. I can tell you if the bases are drunk and there's one out and it's a beautiful Sunday like it was in Los Angeles, would I like to be up and hit a ringing double in the gap? Oh yeah, that would be a nice thing. But I don't yearn for it. But I'll tell you what, when I get to see my teammates, not to sound corny, but I get choked up a little bit because I just really love my teammates. I always will. And it's just a very special thing that you take for the rest of your life. That's the most important thing to me.
You know, it's really interesting because a lot of guys, and I mean, a lot of guys always say, oh man, I missed the game. I missed the game. But you don't.
I don't miss it. I don't, you know why? Because I felt like I did just about everything I could. I mean, I tried as hard as I could. I never had an at bat where I went up and just went through the motion. Never happened one time. I think I did it right. I wouldn't trade anything, even the bad times where I wasn't very good. I wouldn't trade it for anything because it was the battle. It was fixing things that weren't right and those type of things that when you came out of it and it worked, it was like, man, I am growing, you know, and that's where you grow as a person.
How do you feel knowing that, like in your spot in the batting order, everybody else depended on you to get things going?
Yeah, that's you know, I love that. I love that the idea that I had to be the first time up. I had to be on a reconnaissance mission pretty soon. I had to kind of, if I could get 11 to 12 pitches out of the pitcher would be ideal. My first time up, I would do it. Except for 1988 when Dave Dravecky threw the first pitch to me and I hit it for a home run. I wouldn't trade that one out. But for the most part, I had to go up there and I had to kind of dig out that pitcher a little bit and come back to the dugout and say, hey, this is what his ball's doing. Fastballs, he's cutting a little bit into you, so beware of that. He's fading it out. You know, he's rising the fastball up in the zone, so, you know, be aware of it. Make him get the ball down. It's things like that I had to go and tell my teammates, and I love that responsibility, and I felt okay hitting with 2 strikes at times, so I didn't mind that at all.
Interesting analogy you just made. You said, it was like me and I'm going on this reconnaissance mission. I love being the first out. It was almost like you were the guinea pig for everybody else.
Yeah. And I liked being a real pain in the neck to the pitcher, Jim. You know what I mean? So, and I love the matchups. You know, when facing Nolan Ryan or guys like that, I love those matchups. I wanted to play against the other team when they were at their absolute best. It's more satisfaction to go out and beat somebody when they're not, minus their top players. I wanted everybody on their team to be healthy and playing as best they could. That's who I wanted to play against, and most of the time that was the case.
And a couple of times I was talking to Lasorda about you, and he would say something like, "He's so fidgety. He won't be still. He's always in motion. He's always doing something."
Yeah. I kind of guess that's my personality. I sleep like this. So, you know what I mean? And so I'm always doing something, and that's just the way I was made. And you know what's funny is, if you take my brother and I, who my brother David played in the big leagues too, not as long, but if you put us in two different rooms, Jim, and gave us a survey on different things in life, and we would have exactly the same answers, I guarantee you. But you put us sitting next to each other, and people think, wow, you guys are way different. I mean, maybe it's the energy you're spending or whatever it may be, but we're pretty much different in that regard. But other ways, we're just exactly alike. So it's hard to kind of read the book by the cover,
So as much as you try to deny it, everything we have been talking about over the last few minutes will lead everyone to believe and know that you are a legend.
You know what, Jim? I don't know that I'm a legend. I don't think I'm a legend, but if people would ever say that's a real humbling experience for me. I was just happy to be there. Really, I was happy. I grew up in West Sacramento with not a lot, believe me, and I was just fortunate to be there, and I got to meet my legends in my lifetime. My favorite players growing up were the Giants, and I hope that doesn't offend any Dodger fans, because I grew up in Northern California. But I got to meet Willie Mays, and I got to meet Willie McCovey. Those were my favorite players. And when I met these guys, I was beside myself. I couldn't believe that I was actually worthy enough to meet Willie Mays, and I got to shake hands with Willie McCovey. I mean, I would have done anything if somebody told me when I was 10 years old that you're going to meet Willie Mays or Willie McCovey someday. I wouldn't have believed it. That's how great they were to me. So I don't ever want to. Those are my legends. I can't even be put in the same breath of those guys.
But you do know how lucky and how fortunate you are to have had the great life that you have, and the great life that you're having right now.
Yes, Jim, I really believe that God has blessed me more than I can imagine, sometimes more than I deserve, but I am truly blessed that I got to live a fantasy. I got to do whatever I wanted to do and play professional baseball. It's unreal. I still pinch myself that I got to do the things I did. And to compete against the best players in the world was beyond the scope of my imagination. I never thought it would turn out that way. I was hoping to someday, boy, if I could just make it to AA, woo, when I got drafted, I would be, I could say I was a professional baseball player. And now I live a life, Jim, everything I do in my life, it seems there's some connection to baseball. Baseball has opened so many doors for me. And I'm just still a really lucky person. I don't want anybody crying at my funeral. I've been a very blessed and lucky. I don't have any regrets whatsoever.